I couldn't sit for more than 10 minutes, let alone feel my buns, which ironically wound up being the beginning of one of the lowest points of my life. The thought of sitting in a car for my morning commute into work stressed me out, let alone being told by my doctor to stop running until my injury healed. I was a 31-year-old father with two little girls at home. I was gaining weight, feeling out of shape, getting dad bod, and I couldn't run because of an injury. Can you relate to this? Maybe you are in a similar situation that you're trying to get out of. My name is Dr. Duane Scotti. I am a running physical therapist, coach, educator, and my mission is to preserve the health and longevity of runners everywhere by allowing them to get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running. I am the CEO of Spark Healthy Runner and creator of the Healthy Runner podcast. And this past week, the Healthy Runner podcast and the Spark Healthy Runner YouTube channel just turned 3 years old, which means I've been sharing content consistently on a weekly basis for 3 straight years, which I am super proud about, but also need to be grateful for and thankful to you, the listener, who has been following along, who has been tuning in, who's been sharing the episodes. Free plug, if you haven't rated the podcast yet, just drop a star rating. It will really help this podcast continue to grow our YouTube channel so we can reach more runners and save them from having to be frustrated, injured runners so they can enjoy lifelong injury-free running. So today, I am going to share with you something that I have never shared before on the podcast as well as the YouTube channel. I've alluded to my story, my backstory in bits and pieces, but never have given you the full picture and context. And quite honestly, I didn't really have it all put together until I've been able to reflect on this journey these past 3 years and really how I have become a healthy runner and why I decided to do what I do today, living my passion, educating the running community, and why I decided to pivot my professional career from being a traditional in the clinic physical therapist to more of a holistic mindset, running physical therapist and coach so I can better serve the running community in a way that you, quite honestly, really deserve to receive care, guidance, and really get back to injury-free running so you can become a lifelong healthy runner instead of a frustrated runner who gets injured every time you try to get faster or every time you try to extend your distance and run longer. I want you to maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and just keep running into your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. I already shared with you, I was 31 years old. I was a father to two little girls, and I was gaining weight, feeling out of shape, right? Getting the dad bod. And I couldn't run because of this injury. And I know many of you are going to be able to relate to this who have followed along the show. So I'm really excited to kind of share this personal journey that I've been on. And it really needs to start by taking a couple of years before that. So, really, taking you back to my childhood, honestly, is, when I grew up in the late 70s, 1979, I was born. Like most kids, like we were playing outside, right? I was always outside with my friends, riding my bike into the dark hours of the night with my brother, without a care in the world. My formal sport that I did do, it was definitely informally basketball, baseball, street hockey, those types of things. But my formal sport that I did was dance. Yes, I was a dude who went to dance school, and I'm not ashamed of that. like I was in middle school. And because it really led me to meeting my, lifelong partner, my wife, who was my dance partner at the time at our local dance studio. And I'm going to connect the written blog to this video and podcast episode and share some pictures with you. So if you want to check out the blog, you can check out my wife and I in our duo picture, our senior year of high school. And I would get my exercise in by dancing 3 hours a day for, 3 to 4 days per week. And, that is really my first introduction to exercise. And I would take classes on the weekends in New York City, Broadway Dance Center. So I grew up on Long Island, New York, and I really loved taking tap classes. That was definitely my forte. I was not a hip hopper. And, I really loved tap, and that was kind of like my jam. So, for those, who could relate to this, I really idolized like Gregory Hines, Savion Glover, and then the oldies, but goodies like Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, just to name a few. They were like my idol growing up. And at this time, I also started working out in the gym because I needed to build upper body strength. As being like a young adolescent boy, it was like you always partnered with a female partner. And then you started doing some lifts and partnering work. And I really enjoyed that, not just because I got to fling girls around, which is definitely one of the benefits of being a male dancer, but I digress. This was really my first introduction to working out for physical health, and that really accelerated when I went to college. I, went to college at Quinnipiac University and wanted to study physical therapy, and taking courses in anatomy, biomechanics, kinesiology. I really loved applying what I was learning in the classroom, learning about the muscles, how they function, what their connections were, and then applying that in the gym and being like, okay, if I do this squat, yes, I do feel this in my quads because it extends your knee, right? It's a knee extensor. And I really loved kind of integrating that into my own strength routines and really applied that as getting my strength and conditioning certification as I was going through grad school and then working as a personal trainer. So I would work with clients, design programs, and be able to kind of practice, right? Exercise and applying it and figuring out what exercises are good for what individuals and for what problems. And then for the first 7 years of my physical therapy career, I really began my pursuit of lifelong learning by taking loads of continuing education courses and becoming a board certified specialist in orthopedics. And during this time, the one constant form of exercise for me was working out in the gym 5 days a week. Like I was like that consistent person, woke up in, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock hour, would always get in my gym workout prior to getting into work. And I absolutely love trying new exercises, pushing hard to gain new muscle, and witnessing firsthand the physical benefits I received from strength training. Now, let's fast forward to the day that really changed my life forever. And it wasn't in the way I thought it would change my life. This is August 2010, while playing some backyard volleyball during my youngest daughter's first birthday party. And, this is a big Scotti bash. Like we're big on celebrating birthdays. And, we always love having our family up. And, this is my younger daughter who has the summer birthday. So she always gets the summer pool parties, whole backyard barbecue, the full nine. I set up the volleyball court and, we play as a family. Unfortunately, we get kind of competitive. And I did, land a little awkward after going up, trying to like spike the ball down on my cousin. And I felt this, sharp pain inside of my left hip. And my leg almost gave out. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Whatever. I probably just pulled something. Unfortunately, the pain worsened over the next couple of days and progressed to the point that I couldn't turn to change directions, even just walking, not even like running and cutting or anything, just like walking in the clinic, working as a PT. I would like turn to like go into the room and, my hip felt like it would just like give out. So that was really, the beginning of like, ooh, okay, what's going on here? Good thing for me. I was an orthopedic sports medicine PT, and I had some good connections and knew who to see, what guidance to get. And I did my best efforts to treat it conservatively with rehab, saw one of my colleagues and then really follow through with like the exercise I needed to do. And unfortunately, I did need to undergo a surgical procedure called a hip arthroscopy or a hip scope. And what they found when they went in there with the scope, and you can look inside the joint, is that I did have a torn labrum as well as a torn piece of cartilage. So, as a result of more of the cartilage tear, the surgeon elected to do what we call a microfracture procedure. So they drill they drill little holes into the bone to actually facilitate it to bleed and to facilitate healing, to theoretically throw down some cartilage to protect the bone surface, right? So I wouldn't develop like osteoarthritis in my joint. That procedure, there's definitely been advances since this time. At this time, when I had the procedure done 12 years ago now, it was fairly new. There was only like 3 surgeons in the state of Connecticut that were doing this surgery and that specialized in this. This was kind of newer technology in doing these hip arthroscopies. They've been doing them in the knee and the shoulder forever, and this was something new in the hip joint. So unfortunately, because I had that special procedure done, I was forced to use crutches and not weight bear at all through my leg for 6 weeks at that time. So now, think about being reliant on your wife to not only take care of your 2 daughters under the age of 5, but now she had to take care of me, right? So I felt like an invalid. And during that time, because I was on crutches and I wasn't able to work out like I was used to doing 5 days a week, I unfortunately gained some weight, lost a lot of muscle, and felt really quite disgusting, honestly, in my body, as I never, looked the way I looked. Like I said, ever since adolescence, like being in dance, all of that, I always liked staying fit, and I never experienced anything like this before. And now I'm not in my 20s anymore. Now I'm in my 30s. I'm like a father of 2. And, I asked my surgeon, I was like, what do you recommend that I can do to get back into shape? And, he was like, just go for a run. Now, I never have been a runner. I did try. So I did try running in college, and every time I would run, I would get what we call piriformis syndrome, where I would get like this deep achy pain kind of in the middle of the butt area, where that muscle would go into spasm, as well as I would always get shin splints. So every time I ran, I was like, oh, I can't run because I'm going to get shin splints. So I couldn't run for any distance. And the only time I ever ran was for quote unquote cardio after my strength workouts in the gym, where I would do these short bursts when I would want to like lean down, right? Get some cardio in. That's the only running that I've ever experienced was on the treadmill. And my surgeon explained to me that due to the area of the hip that they did the surgery, it's in the front of the hip joint. And he really didn't want me running on the treadmill because it kind of adds a little bit of force to the hip joint coming in a forward direction. So I was like, okay, well, like, what do you want me to do? It's Connecticut. It was March at the time. We're actually coming up at the time of this recording up on my 12-year anniversary or my run anniversary when I took my first run outside, because he told me, he was like, just run outside. And I was like, all right, it's pretty cold still. Like, seriously, like, you want me to go outside? But I was like desperate, guys. I needed to get back in shape, right? I was like, all right, I need my active lifestyle back. So I gave it a shot. Can you guess what happened next? You probably could, right? I actually really enjoyed running outside, getting that fresh air feeling, taking in my surroundings. And for me, coming off surgery, it was just great to be able to work up a sweat and exercise again. And I loved it so much that I started running more and I started running faster. And then I saw that there was these road races that people do. And I said, you know what, maybe I should try this, right? I've been running now. let me like try this race. It's a 5K. It's this big race in New Haven, Connecticut. It's the Labor Day road race. And I knew a bunch of people doing it, friends of mine. So I was like, all right, let me try it. Sure. And I managed somehow to do pretty well, finishing in 21:20 or 6:52 minute per mile pace, which I think is actually pretty darn good for being like a novice runner. And, I at the time, I didn't realize how good of a time that is. Like reflecting now, I would be like, yeah, I would be really happy with that time. And, just starting out. And I kind of looked at, where I placed in my age group and I was like, wow, I didn't do too bad. Like that's not too bad for someone just starting out. You know, maybe I can do more of this, right? So I continue to explore this like whole new world to me of running. And I trained and, worked on getting faster, worked on running longer distances so I can train for a 10K. And then I trained for 10 milers. And then, I was getting faster in the 5K, getting PRs. And I wanted to challenge myself more and train for my first half marathon because people, would talk about these half marathons. And I'm like, 13.1 miles, like, no way I can do that. I'm not a runner. And I actually, before I did that half marathon, I did this local 10K and I was just like floored that I actually finished third in my age group and I got a little trophy. And I was like, wow, I haven't gotten a trophy since like, youth soccer or youth baseball. And I was like, wow, this is really neat. I was like, okay, let's like explore this half marathon thing. So I started training for a half marathon. And can you guess what happened next? It wasn't exactly what happened when I started running and everything went great. This is when I actually got my first running injury. And it was this deep aching pain in the bottom of my butt, right where the sit bone is, or at the top of my hamstring. And initially, I thought the pain would go away, but it was stubborn and it just kept getting worse to the point that I couldn't even feel my buns anymore. And I couldn't sit for more than 10 minutes, let alone run. And the pain lasted for months. And my family and I couldn't even drive to Long Island, New York, live in Connecticut. We couldn't visit our family. It was a 2-hour drive. And I just remember dreading all of the holidays around that time period because I knew that I would be like in pain, sitting off to the side, not putting any pressure on that side, on my left side. And I didn't understand why it wasn't getting any better. And I was doing everything that my PT books said I should be doing, right? I was resting it. I was stretching my hamstrings because when you have a hamstring injury, you have to stretch it, right? Makes sense. I was told by my doctor to stop running. And he even told me maybe running isn't the sport for you. So this devastated me because here I was, kind of this young father, finding this new sport where I was a dancer earlier on, and now I found running, and I found, myself getting back in shape, right? Getting my active lifestyle back after my surgery. And this really devastated me. And here I was, this board certified orthopedic sports medicine PT, certified strength and conditioning specialist who prided myself on getting all of my patients better, right? Like I would literally like do research on certain patients and their conditions and, do programming and rehab progressions like late at night at home on my own time, right? Like I definitely perseverated on getting my patients like better to 100%, like getting them back to where they needed to be. But I couldn't even fix my own body. So, talking about feeling like a fraud, right? Feeling like I was an imposter. And I'm just wondering, can you relate to this at all? Maybe not feeling like an imposter or a fraud, but having this type of injury where you just were frustrated and you tried some things and it wasn't getting any better. Because even though this has been a while for me now, I know how you feel. And I can remember how much this affected and, infected me mentally and was such a downer because I really, couldn't fix my own problem. And, you might have IT band syndrome, you might have plantar fasciitis, you might have Achilles tendonitis, runner's knee, or pain on the outside of your knee, IT band syndrome. You probably don't have PHT or proximal hamstring tendinopathy. You could, but you probably have one of the other injuries I mentioned. And I just want to let you know, like, I feel you. And I was in the same exact position that you were, and I managed to figure it out. And after Googling like crazy, trying to fix this problem in my butt so I could be able to run and be able to sit for my commute to work, I managed to actually start running again. And I was able to get stronger. And now I'm in a very much better position today and a better state of mind. So I'm going to share with you exactly what I found when I searched Google, because honestly, all the PT references that I had at the time was not telling me what I needed to know to kind of really take that next level in healing from my injury. And it made me really change my whole outlook on how I train as a runner. And I'm going to explain to you what I did to get out of this bleak situation that I found myself in. And I really figured out something that changed everything. So, this is really my epiphany. So, this was certainly one of the low points of my life. And, now I'm here to share with you like what I found when I Googled proximal hamstring tendinopathy injury and how I overcame it and got back to running. So, just like when we were first time parents, and some of you might be able to relate to this right now, or you can remember this. You know how we overcame like rocking our babies to sleep every single time that they were due for a nap? Like, we had an epiphany and soon realized that self-soothing and crying would be the best in the long run to keep us parents sane, right? Like, despite how painful it was to hear them cry. I can remember my first born, right, Olivia. It was literally, I'd be like rocking and shushing her to sleep for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. It got to a half hour. And then till it was like an hour, right? Or I'd put her in the stroller and we'd literally be in her room. And like I'm sitting there rocking the stroller back and forth to get her asleep, just to take like maybe a half hour nap. And I'm like, I'm spending an hour for her to take a half hour nap, right? Like, what time freedom does that give us as parents? So I think, you guys could probably relate to this who are parents. So just like that instance where I realized like this doesn't really make sense. My hamstring injury was similar in the fact that really what I did in the beginning to try and fix it, now looking back, was really quite silly. And I soon learned that this running related injury was very different. It was unique from any other injury that I had learned about in physical therapy school. It wasn't the same as a hamstring strain. It wasn't the same as when you pull your hamstring or another tendon injury that younger, adolescent athletes get that is more inflammatory in nature. And, it wasn't something similar that really responded to the way other injuries responded to that I was treating in the clinic. And I learned that one of the worst things that you can do for this injury, proximal hamstring tendinopathy, is stretch the hamstring muscle, which is quite counterintuitive because it just feels tight. And a lot of my clients now will tell me that as well. It feels tight and it feels like you want to stretch it. And your instinct is to do that. And just like my instinct was to rock my first daughter, Olivia, down for a nap each and every time until I was literally doing it for an hour. I also learned that this condition is actually quite common in distance runners, especially middle aged adults who are training for a half marathon, who are training for a marathon. And I also learned that hamstring loading and with strengthening targeted to the hamstring tendon was key. And once I changed my plan of attack, I suddenly was able to run again. and go visit my family in Long Island because I could actually sit. So I was back to running. So all is good in the world. Back to running. Super pumped. I was even able to finish my first half marathon, the Cheshire Half Marathon, which the medal is somewhere behind me for those of you watching the video version here. And I had a pretty respectable time of a 1:36:59 in 2013. And I do have the picture to prove it in the blog there of myself, Olivia, and Gabby at the Cheshire Half Marathon. And when I finished this race, like 2 years into my adult onset running journey, I actually finally called myself a runner. Before that, I wasn't a runner. I wasn't any of those like skinny runners, right? Who've been doing it since like middle school and cross country. I wasn't a runner, right? But I ran a half marathon. So now I felt like I was able to finally call myself a runner. And like a lot of members in our Healthy Runner coaching program who don't identify as a runner, they go on to crush 5Ks, half marathons, and marathons. I thought I had it made. I thought I had it figured out. I was a runner, but did I? So now I'm going to share with you this secret that led to my fastest half marathons and my first marathon. But before that, I need to share with you that, remember how everything changed for me when I started strengthening to get over my injury and I stopped stretching? So let's go to now April 2013, 2 years into my adult onset running journey. I was finally able to acknowledge I'm a runner. I finished my first half marathon, and there were some amazing benefits, or hidden benefits, I guess I should say, to adding in strength training for running. And during the next 4 years, I really went on to run faster and faster by racking up half marathon PRs. Like they were going out of style. And to be quite honest with you, when I was getting some of these half marathon PRs, it wasn't all roses all the time, because every time I actually tried to run faster during my training, I got another injury. Yes, the running sports medicine PT got runner's knee. I got patellofemoral pain syndrome. And then I got inside of the ankle pain, posterior tibial tendonitis or tendinopathy. And then I got plantar fasciitis, and the bottom of my heel hurt every time I took my first step out of bed in the morning. And then I got Achilles tendonitis. And the good thing by being a PT who helped many patients get out of this type of pain is I was able to treat myself initially, right? I was able to like calm down the symptoms. I knew what to do. The secret that really kept all of these common running related injuries that many of you have had at some point or maybe battling right now, the key to keeping it from coming back is really the secret that I want to share with you, so you can stay active, stay healthy, and just keep running without having to be told to stop running by your doctor again. And you want to know what the secret I learned? It is that runners are athletes, and runners are different from the ordinary person who gets hamstring pain, who gets knee pain, who gets foot and ankle pain, right? Versus the generic, we call it like general orthopedic patient population that was really I was seeing in the PT clinic. And runners need to train in order to run. So let me say that again for the folks in the back. Runners must train in order to do the thing they love, run. Not run as your only form of training or exercise. So what do I mean by that? Runners need to strength train on one leg, train with jumps, or what we call plyometric training. And we need to train smart with proper progression. And that's really the coaching aspect that I've added into my toolbox. So once I started implementing these principles into my personal training, the injuries started going away and stopped coming back, which led to the following results. In 2015, I was able to get a Hartford half marathon PR of a 1:33:56. I don't know if I'm going to ever see that time ever again, guys. I'm not going to lie, right? That is when I was peaking in my race times at this time, when I really started implementing strength training for running. And I was continually kind of PRing, and then I had that one magical day. Weather was perfect. My race strategy was executed perfectly. I was feeling good, and I got a sub 134. So I haven't been close to that ever since, to be quite honest with you, but I'm slowly chipping back as the years go on. And then what I was able to do after that was, because I got a bunch of half marathon PRs and people talking about this marathon thing. And I'm like, well, I'm not a marathon runner. Like, I finally call myself a runner, but I was like, I'm not a marathon runner. And I challenged myself to run my first marathon, and I was super proud to finish 26.2 miles in 2017 at the Hartford Marathon. And this was a huge accomplishment, finishing the distance. Just like we tell our athletes now, I made a lot of mistakes. I've talked about this in many episodes before, a lot of our marathon specific content. I've talked about a lot of those mistakes that I did make in the marathon, but I was super proud to be able to cover the distance, right? Finish my first marathon. And that's really where kind of my personal running journey kind of grew, and give you that backstory on where I come from there. And now I want to shift gears to, I'm going to get a little personal with you. I hope that's okay. I consider you guys, my healthy runner community, as my family. So I really want to share with you the why in what I'm doing today. And it really stems from ever since I started sharing content publicly. I've always said, my name is Dr. Duane Scotti, right? And I take great pride in saying Scotti and adding my last name and not just saying, hey, it's Duane, because really that name means like the world to me. And the reason it means the world to me is because I decided to actually change my last name going through physical therapy school, because of the woman I was lucky enough to have in my life for 41 years. And I'm grateful for having my mom as a part of my life each and every single one of those years. And on January 26, 2021, my mom, Janice Scotti, lost a 2-week battle with COVID just weeks before the vaccine was approved and available. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of her, and her legacy definitely lives on in her love of family and friends. And it's now, at the time of this recording, been over 2 years that I have not had her here. But I think about the sacrifices that she made. And I think about growing up without a father, in my house, without father having a relationship with any of us. My mom was a single mother raising 3 children, working full time overnight. Would need to get a babysitter for us overnight. She worked at the local community college and, picked up a public safety job. And then she would go to school during the day, went to a local community college, went to school to be able to get her associate's degree, went back to school to get her bachelor's degree, because she wanted to instill in us from a young age that, we can accomplish anything, right? We came from, and I've definitely never shared this before, I've done a deep dive reflection episode after my mom passed away 2 years ago. But, we grew up in welfare, right? We were on government sponsored food. I remember waiting in lines, long lines, to walk away with like this huge block of cheese, powdered milk, a huge thing of butter. And, we would like live on pasta and butter growing up because my mom was trying to make a better life for us. Right. And she sacrificed a lot. And she instilled in me from a very young age that I need to, number one, strive to work hard, and that I was going to go to college and, to make a better life for myself than what the situation we were currently in. And she instilled in me to express myself and never hold anything back. So in her honor, I wanted to share with you my why and why I am truly living my passion today, serving the running community through education, whether it's through our one-on-one signature coaching program, weekly YouTube videos, or podcast episodes. So for those of you who want to check out the blog, you can see a picture of me and my mom at my master ceremony graduation from PT school. And she has her big, beautiful smile. She was just so proud of her son for accomplishing that first in the family to get an advanced, collegiate degree. And, I'm really on a mission and to empower runners to get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running, just like my mom was on a mission to get her college degree. So we could follow in her footsteps and go to college and make a difference in the world. Hence why I wanted to share with you why I changed my last name to my mom's maiden name so I can carry on the Scotti legacy when I graduated college. So on that day of, January 26, 2021, my life changed forever after I did lose my mom, and she became our guardian angel in heaven. It was definitely heartbreaking, to say the least, that the only parent I had ever known and the one grandparent my girls had who was also their best friend, who attended all of their volleyball games, concerts, dance recitals, gymnastics competitions, right? She was not there to witness them grow up, to see what I'm witnessing in my girls, like being the amazing young ladies that they are becoming. So I'm really, talking about a comeback story and wanted to share my story on how my mom is the reason I am here doing this with you today and able to follow my passion of serving the running community. So, remember how earlier I mentioned I started training in order to run, and then I got stronger and I got faster, and I was able to get consistent without getting injured anymore. I really needed, and hopefully this makes some sense and transitions into why I mentioned, my mom. I needed to share what I was learning with other runners who I was treating in the clinic after they got injured. And, you know, however, unfortunately, the traditional medical model does not allow myself or other clinicians to, treat runners in the ways that we all know that you deserve to be treated to prevent the injuries, because how it works is you have Achilles pain. I'm going to evaluate you. I'm going to treat you. You're going to get better. Insurance is going to authorize maybe 6 to 8 visits. And then once your pain levels are down and you're able to go upstairs pain free, you're able to walk, you're able to do your job. That's all they're paying for. They're not going to pay for you to run a half marathon. They're not going to pay for you to run a marathon, right? So the only pay for services when you're quote unquote broken or you're injured. And I was constantly seeing the same patients in the clinic, and I'm a people person. So I love developing relationships. I love the interactions with my patients, and I would love seeing them again. But I only really loved it if it was a different body part, right? Like if I helped you with your Achilles pain and now you have a knee problem, like, yes, let's work on that. But if I'm seeing you for Achilles pain every 6 months or every time you go into a marathon training cycle, then I was really getting frustrated with that because I knew there was a better way to prevent these injuries because I had put in the strategies and I put them to the test personally in my own training. And I figured out how to stop those stubborn running related injuries that I was battling. So in 2017, I really decided to open up my own quote unquote side hustle, right? Clinic. And that is when Spark Physical Therapy LLC was born. So now we're 5 years into this journey, or 6 years into this, almost 6 years into this journey at the time of this recording. And initially, I was only helping my local running community here in Connecticut. I was actually doing like in-home visits. It was like concierge PT, like come to your door, like old school doctor visiting you at home. But we were working on exactly what you needed to get rid of your injury, to prevent it from coming back, for you to be able to like crush your running goals. And unfortunately, COVID pandemic hit, right? My business came to a full stop, essentially. I was renting space out of a gym, doing home visits. Like that wasn't happening, right? If you think about what was going on when COVID first hit. So I really needed to go fully virtual. And, the big reason for the reason for doing that was I really, it was, quite frankly, I had to do it out of necessity, right? To make some money and to be able to continue doing what I was doing. And I found a way to do virtual visits and started helping runners all over the world, from Scotland to Australia to the UK, all throughout the US. It's pretty neat to like meet people from Hawaii, Texas, Ohio, Utah, Florida, Vermont, like all other states I've never treated patients in before, right? And a big reason for this was because of the growth of our Spark Healthy Runner YouTube channel and the Healthy Runner podcast, our Facebook community. And it was really through these platforms that I was able to connect with the running community, share weekly tips, tricks, exercises, training principles to help runners stay healthy so they can continue getting in the mental clearing miles that we all needed at the time going through COVID. And so we can continue running, showing up better for the people that matter most in our life. And bringing it back to the loss of my mom and the stress during the peak of COVID and needing to totally pivot my business, running was the one constant in my life that I could depend upon. It was always there for me to clear my head while grieving the loss of my mom. The strength training in order to run was always there for me to get those endorphins going while making me stronger and more resilient as a runner. So today I do what I do, living my passion at Spark Healthy Runner, to show my girls that anything is possible and that they can have as little or as big of an impact that they want to have on the world as they grow up. So I'm super grateful to have the impact that I have today, that you're actually listening to this. I am not treating you in a clinic and you're getting this information, but I'm able to connect with you. I'm able to add value and I'm able to serve you and to help the running community stay healthy and to be able to do it for longevity and to do it for a long time. And hopefully, me sharing this personal story with you, maybe you relate to some of it. Maybe it provides you a little backstory that you never knew about me if you haven't kind of pieced together all the other episodes where I've kind of made hints and I've talked briefly about my hip surgery. I talked briefly about my hamstring pain. I talked briefly about the loss of my mom, to give you like the why on how I created the system that we've created here at Spark Healthy Runner, and why I actually want to share and give back to our running community. And, the one thing that really we dominate, honestly, beyond great running health content that you're listening on the podcast or on the YouTube channel, is really providing clarity on what you need to focus on as a runner through our Spark Healthy Runner coaching program. And if you are a frustrated runner who is trying to get out of the injury cycle, or you're a dedicated runner who has constantly put in the time training for races, but you're not getting any faster and you've like plateaued, then the solution you've been waiting for is really enrolling for limited spots right now. So we can take on, in our high touch point coaching program, 8 spots each month, and they're limited. So they do run out. And, this is really what we honestly dominate in the run coaching market space, or even if you're looking for a traditional physical therapist to get over your run injury. And I'm proud to say that we have 5-star rated coaching services for our clients through our unique delivery system to really get the results that you deserve as a runner, getting rid of your stubborn running injury or taking your running to the next level without having to stop running because you wind up getting ache and pain or an injury. And you don't have to really rehab after your big race goal, and you're able to still hit that race goal. So one of the worst feelings is not being able to run to get in your mental clearing, runs due to an injury or pain. And I can certainly relate to this. Recently, just last week, and you can probably still hear it in my voice, I was sick and I wasn't able to run for a couple of days. I wasn't able to get that mental clearing miles I needed. So everyone that we work with, those that have not been able to run for weeks, for months, I just worked with a runner at getting her back. It's been 9 months, literally, that she didn't run. And working in our 16-week coaching program, she's now up to 6-mile long runs. Or someone I think about, in our program that just finished up a while ago, last fall, actually, running her first marathon in Chicago, was Katya, who got over Achilles pain. And, being able to fulfill these big dreams of yours, these big goals, as we age, as we're middle aged, right? As we're parents, just like I want to continually challenge myself to the physical, mental limits that I can do, I want to be able to provide that to you. So, how do we add a spark to your training? We help you train consistently with proper support and structure to get stronger and run faster so you can enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And we have a 4-month coaching program where we're hyper focused and really dialing down what you need to focus on, strength training for running, as well as your run plan. And really, where this comes out is training you on the 6 parts of growing as a runner or advancing in your running journey. And we really cover the mindset, having that proper mindset that you need, the strength training, which is the foundation, the run plan, all structured out for you, take away the guesswork, know the proper progression so you don't get injured, the nutrition. We have Brooke, our registered dietitian for runners, in our program, and she also takes on one-on-one clients for run coaching, in addition to having a specified, specific nutrition plan. And then recovery, because recovery is a part of the training. So we tell you exactly how much recovery to do, what tools, what do you need, what stretching should you be doing, all of those things. And then your race strategy. And we really provide clarity, accountability, and structure in all 6 of those components on how we grow as a runner. So if you don't know how to implement any of those 6 things that we just talked about, and you want clarity and focus, that's exactly what we do in our high touch point one-on-one coaching program, where I'm your running physical therapist and coach all in one. Or you can work with one of the coaches on our team, and I serve as your running consultant, guiding you along in that journey and that process. So you can learn more about the Spark Healthy Runner coaching program and schedule a call now by going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com. If anything I said today with you resonates, I want to be able to help more runners in our community so they can enjoy lifelong injury-free running. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like button. It will help it reach more runners. If there's a running friend that you can think of needs to hear some of this, share it with them. Copy the link, share it with them. If you're listening on the podcast, like I said before, drop a quick rating, hit the star button, hit the follow button on Spotify, share the podcast link with a friend of yours. That will go a long way. I appreciate you for listening. I appreciate those of you who've been with me these last 3 years on a weekly basis, sharing the content, whether it was like marathon specific training, how to do a tempo run, what are strides, how to get over plantar fasciitis, right? Like any of the specific topics that we've covered. This episode, this video was totally different, but hopefully it provides more insight into really where the information comes from that I do want to share with you. And more importantly, the why, like why I want to share it with you, why I want to serve our running community. And I really needed to share what I learned in my personal running journey, my professional career path, and apply that to how we as runners can continue doing what we love. So, as always, guys, let's maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and let's just keep on running. Until next time.